We're here today with Dr. Ilya, and I'm going to let him talk about his credentials, but the topic is the internal causes of acne. So welcome everyone from Dr. Ilya's account as well, Triad of Health, and for those of you, my name is Elena. I'm one of the owners of Luminance Skincare, and we're dying to hear what Dr. Ilya has to say about the internal causes of acne. So why don't you tell us about yourself and your credentials?
Okay, thanks for the nice introduction. So I'm a diplomate of the International Board of Applied Kinesiology. And what a diplomate is of the International Board of Applied Kinesiology is someone who's a specialist at understanding the underlying causes of people's health concerns, and they have therapies to treat those people. So we look at the different relationships between different organs and glands in the body and how they're related to different muscles. So not many people realize that each muscle in the body is related to a different organ and gland. And each of those organs and glands are muscles, and muscles are related to a different nutrient, and they're also related to a different emotion, and a different homeopathic remedy, and a different herb, and a different one of the 7 notes of the scale. There's all these relationships, and by understanding those relationships, we're able to help people in a really profound way.
Wonderful. Oh, bear with us. We have an iPad in the background that we need to turn the sound off on. And one of the things, so Dr. Ilya is my doctor. He's treated me for my my thyroid issues, and I am symptom-free at this point. And the reason I wanted to work with him is because he doesn't use synthetic drugs or invasive treatments. So, and that's very much in line with our philosophy at Luminance. We don't use any synthetic ingredients or toxic ingredients, and that's why I thought this would be a great person for us to interview. So before we get into the content, we are going to have prizes, healthcare prizes and skincare prizes.
And you're an excellent patient as well.
Thank you.
Do very well with the lifestyle changes.
Yeah, I work hard. So the prizes, we're going to give 3 out today at the end of this session. And the way you can potentially win a prize is by asking questions or leaving comments in the comment section below this live video. We want to bring out all the shy people who may have questions, because if you have that question, probably 10 other people have that question too. And it's helpful for us. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to go through, there's 3 causes. We're going to go through each of them. And as we go through each of them, I'm going to ask my questions that I've prepared, and then we'll go through and answer all of your questions in the comment sections, and then we'll move on to the next section. And we're doing that for Triad of Health and Luminance Skincare accounts, because we're going live on 2 accounts. It's a pretty crazy day. And then in 1 week, we're going to choose 3 other winners. So even if you're seeing this and we're not live, or you're seeing this tomorrow in the future, because you couldn't make it, you can still win prizes. And we will be looking back at the comments and the questions, because if we miss something and there's a lot of the same questions that come up, we may do a follow-up video. So it's good for us to know too. So leave your questions, we'll come back in a week and we'll just comment and let you know if you won. So let's get into it. Dr. Ilya, you told me that you suffered from acne, and that's actually why you got into this profession.
I did. Yeah, it's a little embarrassing to talk about, but why don't I talk about it anyway, since that's the whole idea. So growing up, I wasn't the most outgoing kid. I'll try to make it a short story, but so I was always spending a lot of time indoors, and some of my favorite foods were pizza, hamburgers, hot dogs, and sandwiches. Used to be these big submarine sandwiches my brother and I would eat, and burritos, right? So this isn't exactly the most healthy diet in the world. And after a while, I started to develop really severe acne. At first, it wasn't so bad, and then as I became about 14, 15, and 16, it got really bad. And my father was a medical doctor, so he just did what he knows best, which was send me to the dermatologist. So before doing that, I got the benzoyl peroxide, a lot of you are familiar with. And that worked for like 3 days, and then my acne came back, and it was worse. Every time I would apply it, there'd be acne that would develop right under the benzoyl peroxide. So I don't even know how they get away with selling that stuff. But anyway, and then there were the Stridex pads. I guess Stridex pads use salicylic acid, apparently. And then there was something called Cleocin T that the dermatologist prescribed. And that didn't work either. Like, everything kind of worked for like a week, and then it stopped working. Worked for like about a week or 2, and then it stopped working. And then we tried, of course, Retin A, which is something that women use to get rid of wrinkles. I guess men can use it too. And even though it works, it's toxic. It's a toxic product. You know, it's a synthetic vitamin A. It's not a natural derived vitamin A. And then, of course, we kept going because my acne was still there, right? It wasn't gone yet. It wasn't even getting better. Then we used tetracycline, and with tetracycline, you're not allowed to go out into direct sunlight. Mm-hmm. So I was just a kid. I was like 18 or 17. So I didn't know that not going in direct sunlight might be a problem. I didn't even think about it. I just thought, okay, you know, we'll just stay out of direct sunlight. No big deal. I mean, what's the sun good for anyway, you know? And then that didn't work either. So everything and that's an antibiotic. So the tetracycline is killing off friendly bacteria that lead to healthy skin. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you can imagine the irony in this. If you can't, then you'll ask me questions about it. But so then it turns out that none of those things worked, and there was this other medication that's really strong. It's the strongest there is, and it's called Accutane. And they had to reformulate their medication because they had such a major class action lawsuit that you know, the government wouldn't let them continue to sell this stuff that was so toxic. But it essentially...
And this is the one that women have to be on birth control if they're on.
Women cannot be pregnant. They have to have a pregnancy test done before.
Yeah.
It's
so toxic, basically.
Yeah, and I believe they have to be on birth control as well. I'm not certain about that. But so I use that, and it says on the instructions, you know, may cause really flushed skin and cause you to have peeling skin and possibly have floaters in your eyes and may cause liver damage. I'm like, I don't even know what a liver is. I was 19 and I was already 19, but they never went over basic anatomy in high school. It was just other things. So I used this Accutane, and sure enough, there was these floaters in my eyes. My skin got really red, and it would start to peel, and I was also not supposed to be in too much direct sunlight with the Accutane. But my skin got better, so I was happy, right? I was like a satisfied customer. My skin was better. It was like smooth like a baby's butt, you know, and I didn't have the 3 or 4 eyes anymore. Instead of not being able to go on dates or have women interested in me, you know, as a 19-year-old, it's kind of a big deal. They were actually, you know, noticing me a little bit. So it was great. And then within just about 2 or 3 years later, maybe more like 4 or 5 years, things started happening that hadn't happened before. I started getting angry all the time, and I later learned that anger is an emotion of the liver. So I'd start getting angry, and I was getting hot, warm flashes during the day, and I would get these sweating at night. I was having, you know, quote, female hormonal imbalances, unquote, just like a woman was, even though I'm a male. And you'll never hear another guy probably talking about this, right? At least not on video for anything. So I was having those female hormonal imbalances, and that's why now I do the kind of work that I do. But luckily I was able to find somebody who could help me to detoxify my liver and figure out what was going on and make the connection between the Accutane that I took and this kind of, you know, health concerns that I was having. So nobody ever just, you know, took the time and energy or had the skills and the training to figure out what was the underlying cause of my acne. Nobody was like a colon specialist. Nobody was a organ and gland specialist that understood, you know, all the underlying foundational causes. The dermatologists were just treating symptoms. No matter how effective or ineffective, that's what they would do, you know.
And I think this really hits home for me because I also had acne, maybe not as severe as yours, but I had serious acne as a teenager, and the options I was presented with were...
I feel better now.
Birth control, I think it's very common. Birth control, Accutane, topical antibiotics, or internal antibiotics. And I didn't really know what the side effects of those were. I chose birth control because I kind of knew that antibiotics weren't a good thing, but I wasn't, you know, my mom definitely wasn't happy with my options. She knew a lot more about it than me, and she tried to dissuade me from taking those, but I think that there's a lot of people who are very dissatisfied with those options and don't really know where to turn. So that's why I wanted to create this personally, this video, and I think there's a lot of people who have encountered the same options and not wanted that. And it's also really interesting to hear this perspective from a man because you guys aren't even offered birth control.
Right.
And I feel like that, for a lot of us, it's just so common to take birth control for acne and say, oh, okay, that solved it. And then you don't deal with the aftermath of that for another 10 years, like until we're ready to have kids or we just can't deal with that anymore.
Sure. Absolutely.
So your acne was a symptom of bad detoxification?
Right. Mine was more like a toxic colon. In fact, our family doctor, when I was a kid, the pediatrician, and they did these studies of my colon, and they realized, oh, his colon's a little bit unusual. Not that that's the main reason. I mean, it's okay to have an unusual colon, but I was eating all this pizza and pasta and stuff like that, and those things cause colon disease, you know. And I was having, I mean, I'm not real proud to talk about it, but I was having constipation and that kind of thing, even as a little kid, even as a, you know, little kids do have that kind of thing, but I wasn't that little. I mean, I was 8, 10, 12 years old, 15 years old, and I was still having those kind of symptoms.
Yeah.
So
let's get into it now. What are the 3 causes of acne? We talked about one, which is detoxification,
right,
or bad detoxification.
Inability to properly detoxify poisons and toxins and toxoids. It's nice when you hear it from a doctor. It's like, oh, that's really what it is.
And then the second one?
The second one is hormones, right?
Yeah. Hormonal imbalance.
Hormonal imbalances, right.
And then the third one is infections.
Right. So yeah, a person can have an infection, for whatever reason. I mean, there's a lot of things that can cause infections, and then the thing that's so interesting about things like infections is that we're taught that you get an infection when you have a microbe, food falls on the floor and then you eat it and you shouldn't, or you're getting a parasite from uncooked fish, or a sexually transmitted disease or something like that. And those things, that's true, that those things contribute to infections. But the true, well-known, well-established, documented scientific cause of infections taking over the body is a weakened immune system. And so we all have these infective agents in our blood. You can see it if you look at the blood, which we used to do for a year. We did this in our office. We would look at the blood. We'd do live blood cell analysis, or hematological chromatography. And you would look at the blood and you'd see all these parasites and viruses and bacteria just swimming around through the blood and having a good time, and we all have that in our blood. But when the levels get too large, it's because the immune system isn't decreasing the populations of these microbes. So I wonder if there was a point to all that. Right, so yeah, you can have an infection that leads to acne, like a viral infection or a fungal infection, which is really, really, really common. Or
so what you're saying
condition.
is that it's not that we don't have those bacteria or that we need to limit our exposure to that. It's that they're always going to be there, but our immune system has to be strong enough to fight it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Well put.
Thank you.
It's a good thing you're here.
All right.
There's people filming us too. It's a good thing they're here. Let's
jump into detox. So this is a word that I think is thrown around a lot, especially in weight loss and fad diets, and it's kind of overused. And I know that for me, I didn't, and I'm still learning. I didn't understand what it meant, and I'm still learning. So can you tell us, what are we detoxifying? Like when we talk about detoxification in the body, what exactly are we detoxifying?
I do want to answer that, but before we do that, before we answer what is it that we're detoxifying, we should answer the question, what is detoxification more clearly? So, or when does it happen and when doesn't it happen? So there's this superstition and going around in the public that sometimes people can't detoxify and other times they can, and that we need to somehow make it happen, right? But that's not the way the body works. The body's constantly detoxifying. You can't survive without detoxifying. And there's certain medical conditions where the pores get clogged up and the people are really, 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 really sick because they don't detoxify properly. But anyway, they involve the pancreas, but cystitis and whatnot. Let's not get into that. The point is that you're always detoxifying. It's just that because of the world that we live in, we're exposed to, on average, 10,000 or more man-made chemicals every single day that are man-made, right? If they're man-made, that means that our body doesn't know what to do with them. You're not supposed to be exposed to ammonia. I mean, if you have 1 part per 100 trillion of ammonia, it doesn't do anything. But if you're ending up with like 3 or 4 parts per million, and you get exposed to that just for a couple minutes, I mean, that's just, whoa, that doesn't occur in nature. So, at least not externally, right? So
this is due to...
Its inability to properly detoxify is due to some kind of problem, usually with the external or internal environment. I'm not trying to confuse anyone, but...
And also, this has changed within the last 50 years. Within the last couple generations, our exposure has just skyrocketed, right?
Right. There's been more damage done to the environment in the last... every month, there's more damage to the environment than there used to be done every 25 or 30 years in the past. I mean, there's that much chemicals that we're exposed to. We're living in a chemical world. It's not a material world, it's a chemical world. And,
so then it makes sense that our bodies are struggling. It's not that there's something wrong with us, or that... I used to wonder, for example, I was a C-section baby, and I used to wonder how much that played a role, and I do think that played a role, but then I see people who weren't also having some similar issues to me, so it's not really surprising then, based on what you're saying, that our bodies do struggle to detoxify.
Our bodies struggle to detoxify, and then there was the other question you're asking me about what is it about detoxification that we have trouble with?
Or what are we detoxifying?
Right, what are we detoxifying? So we're detoxifying the poisons and toxins and the things that are man-made. So if you eat like a nice, turkey and cheese sandwich, cheese and turkey sandwich, like provolone with turkey on a sandwich, you may not realize it, but the cheese is something that maybe some humans can process, but if they've genetically modified the animal that made the cheese, the cow, so it's not a regular cow, and then they drugged up the cow that produced the cheese, and then the bread is not found anywhere on the planet because it's genetically modified bread. They made the wheat seeds in a lab by doing all kinds of genetic research, and then, you eat that thing. What are you going to do with that? It might have at one time been a food, just maybe only a couple hundred years ago, but now there's nothing about that. That's a food. That's a thing that your body doesn't know what to do with, so it has to somehow eliminate it and detoxify it. And some people have trouble, meaning they have certain organs and glands that start to not work properly. It may be the kidneys, it may be the liver, it may be the gallbladder, it may be all three. But because their organs or glands become overburdened and overtaxed with all these toxins, so to give an example, somebody who has more dairy products, they tend to have more toxic kidneys. Somebody who has more toxic fats like canola oil or peanut oil, they tend to have more toxic uterus or testicles. And so it varies according to the food we're talking about. Somebody who eats more corn tends to have more trouble with their brain, actually. Okay, so, that's the kind of thing, or their skin, because you sweat out through the skin, and they found a lymphatic system in the brain, so they didn't get a little too far out. But
so I think you just said it.
Bring me back home, Elena.
But I'm curious, which organs do you typically see need to be detoxified for people with acne? So what organs are we talking about?
Well, for me, it was my colon, and should we talk about what it was for you?
We can talk about what it was for me.
So for you, it was general immune system health in your stomach, more so. So it's real
liver,
different.
Right?
And liver, yeah.
So is it different for everyone, or do you see kind of the same organs over and over?
Well, both. I mean, everybody is different, and there's the man who started professional applied kinesiology, Dr. Goodhart. Try not to get confused by this, but he said, the body is simply intricate and intricately simple. So there's only really 10 or 15 things that keep coming up again and again and again. So heavy metal toxicity, cooking with the wrong kind of pan, being exposed to aluminum when you cook. How many people don't use aluminum at some point or another to heat up something throughout the course of a 1 or 2 year period. So that aluminum is a heavy metal. Or being exposed to water that has pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, mildicides, insecticides, food colorings and emulsifiers and stabilizers, and trihalomethanes, which is something that's produced from chlorine and ammonia that combines with organic material like leaves and that kind of thing. And the water lines that are brought up to your house, a little leaf gets, like here we have this Phoenix Lake and we get water from there, but there's leaves all around, there's trees growing all around the lake, and they get into the water, and then we have trihalomethanes, benzene, trichloroethylene, all these different chemicals.
So
radioactive materials are in the water, literally. If you get a water report, the stuff is in the water.
Really?
Yes, so if you drink tap water or filtered water. No offense, but don't do it. Not a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, these are my patients all the time coming to see me. This is
I grew up
you.
drinking tap water.
Yeah, I grew up drinking tap water.
Yeah, I was proud of it too. I thought my water was clean.
The Hetchetchy Dam, right?
Yeah.
It's coming from near Yosemite.
So I'm sure this is a little bit overwhelming because it seems like there's so many toxins, there's so many different organs that could be. How can we empower our listeners if they want to make a change, a lifestyle change? What can they do in order to detox to help their acne? If they think that for example, if a listener thinks that, oh, okay, this sounds like something that I'm going through, how can they make a change?
Right.
To help themselves detox.
So there's a lot of things people can do. People can become empowered. First of all, it's good to get educated. You know, there's a good spring water would be a good way to stay hydrated, and toxins are stored in fat cells, and one of the main things that allows anyone who's going on some kind of a weight loss diet, not that you need to do that if you're watching this, but would be to have a good source of water and drink enough water. Just because if you're watching this and you're skinny doesn't mean you don't need a good source of water. So about 1 quart for every 50 pounds of body weight would be the right amount of water for most people. And that's a real thing, you know. So there's a man who, this Indian fellow, I can't pronounce his name, but he wrote a book that's called You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty. And in the book, he talks about how people are being given all these prescription medications because they're dehydrated, not because they have the thing that they're giving them the medication for. They're actually people are being over-medicated for dehydration. And if they just drank more water, their pains and aches would go away, many of them, and their kidneys start to work right. Not many people realize that, well, many people do actually, but the medical community knows that kidney disease is related to dehydration, but yeah. I mean, a lot of people, are just sitting there, they're diabetic, they don't know what to do, and they could drink more water. So that's one big thing. Avoiding using aluminum tinfoil would be a good idea.
Okay.
It's a simple
I
thing.
feel like those are very actionable, simple things. And
a person could get a water filter for their shower and not shower in...
Not shower.
Not shower in tap water, They could shower in fresh spring water and not get the chlorine gas coming in.
So one thing we didn't say
gas.
explicitly that I want to go back to is how does detox or improper detoxification, how does that lead to acne? What is the relationship?
So that not being able to detoxify properly means all the poisons are trying to come out, but they can't really come out properly. The body's immune system isn't working well enough, and there's not enough water, and often there's not a good source of protein to allow for phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification from the liver to play itself out. So the liver's doing everything it can, and the gallbladder and the colon, these organs and others are doing everything they can to push the toxins out, but they can't come out. So there's too many toxins, and they just start to come out in the skin, and they develop different kinds of skin conditions. Sometimes people can't get constipated because the liver is working. It's pushing all the toxins into the colon, but now the colon can't release the toxins, and constipation takes place. Hopefully that's easy to follow that.
So basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is that it should go out through the liver, and when the liver is overloaded, or the liver should be processing the detoxification, and when that doesn't happen, then it happens through the skin.
Yeah, when the liver, the colon, and the kidneys, and the gallbladder, and when we breathe out carbon dioxide, or other chemicals and gases we don't need, when that's processed and sweating out the pores properly through the skin, when we're not exercising enough and sweating enough, then we end up having a problem, and it can or may come out through the skin, and often does.
Wonderful. So
that's not
it sounds like
it's nasty.
No, but what you just said is that maybe that's another. Eczema and psoriasis.
I mean, all these conditions. A person with psoriasis or eczema has a toxic liver.
Yeah.
And they usually have a fungal infection, especially for psoriasis. Yeah.
So I did have some people email me, and they wanted me to ask questions about that. So I'm really glad you touched on it. So it sounds like that's the other actionable item is exercising.
They can exercise.
Is there a specific type of exercise? I know you've recommended like cardio.
Yeah, aerobic exercise. They can buy a heart rate monitor and have your heart rate at a target heart rate. There's a man named Philip Maffetone who trained more Olympic athletes than any other trainer that I'm aware of in history, and he's also a diplomat of the International Board of Applied Kinesiology, and he wrote a book called Everyone is an Athlete, and another book called In Fitness and in Health, and he talks about just taking your age or taking 180 minus subtract your age, and that's a number that you can work with, and then subtract 10 from that number, and that would be the low end of the target heart rate, and then add about 5 or 10 points to that same number, and that would give you the high number for your target heart rate. And you could just set the heart rate monitor to that target heart rate and start exercising, slowly. If you're already an athlete, you can just exercise all the time. And if you're not, you can start doing long walks, or you can start doing aerobic exercise for a half hour about 4 times a week or more. But it's really using the leg muscles mainly that really allows the heart to work properly. Those are the aerobic muscles, so they burn more fat, which you get more energy from, and is much healthier than burning sugar. So that's Philip Maffetone. I mean, you wouldn't want to just hear about it from me. You might as well get the book and get into it. Come on, get into it. Check out Philip Maffetone's work. He's written a lot of books about this.
Perfect.
Endurance athlete and everything.
How are we doing with questions? Let's get into questions, because I think we're pretty much done with detoxification and acne. So let's see. I can't read your writing. So, Shauna, I assume you're asking favorite thing that worked for Dr. Ilya?
For what?
For acne? I'm not sure. Maybe you can.
Oh, right. Finding somebody who could diagnose and help me with my acne was what really worked for me. I was getting chiropractic care. Thanks for asking that. Okay. So I was in chiropractic school. I was getting chiropractic treatments like once every week or week and a half. I was getting an acupuncture treatment 5 times a week, and I was taking herbs. I was not doing well at all. It's really a little embarrassing, but I was taking a handful of pills to wake up in the morning, a handful of pills to function throughout the day, nutrients, and a handful of pills to go to sleep at night. I was having irritable bowel syndrome. I was having fibromyalgia type symptoms. I was literally going to the bathroom number 2 about 5 or 6 times a day. Things weren't going well. And none of the acupuncture and the herbs and the chiropractic helped me to kind of plateau. I wasn't getting worse quickly, but I wasn't getting better at all. And I finally found someone who had the skills and training to help. They were a diplomat of the International Board of Applied Kinesiology. They were a chiropractor, like myself. They used the neuro-emotional technique from Dr. Scott Walker, which we do here, the total body modification from Dr. Victor Frank, which we do here, and they were a chiropractic kinesiologist, much like I am. And after one visit with this little, he lives in Los Angeles, his name is Bruce Shin. After getting treated by Dr. Bruce Shin, one visit, everything changed. I mean, I just needed a couple of supplements, not a whole bunch to wake up and a whole bunch to go to sleep. I was having normal bowel movements. I was thinking more clearly. I was slightly depressed and never told anyone about it. I've told people since then because, this is what I do for a living. But yeah, the depression was gone and everything had switched around. I wasn't perfect, but it was like literally just one treatment, the very first treatment. And I kept going back. It was 2 hours and 15 minutes to drive out to Temecula, where Dr. Shin practiced, to get treated from Whittier, California, where I was going to school at Southern California University of Health Sciences School of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. So I studied the acupuncture, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I did, is I found somebody who could understand what was happening with my body specifically and how to help me. And they had the skills and training to help. I didn't just read a book or do something that seemed cool, or I went to somebody who did an exam and they found out exactly what was going on with me in no uncertain terms. They had the skills, the training, and the experience, and they put all that to use in helping me. And it wasn't easy what he had done to become a diplomat of the International Board of Applied Kinesiology. He was a very great student. He was a great student. He's a real bright little guy. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a lot of questions, so I'm going to read through them quickly.
Let's do it.
What about retinoids?
Retinoids? Yeah, like retinol palmitate. I guess they're talking about vitamin C. Right, people can use antioxidants, and I appreciate that. I'm not being unappreciative. And they can use them to detoxify or kind of combat the poisons and toxins. So the poisons and toxins, just think of them as being everywhere in your blood and in your environment. And I gave recently, am I allowed to talk about your health a little bit?
Sure.
I gave you some antioxidants, right? And so there's retinoid type substances in some of the supplements that I gave you, like the free radical quenchers supplement. And those are great, but let's not get into you and why I'm treating you, or what I'm doing with you. But basically, we don't want to treat symptoms. We want to address what's causing the symptoms. So your body makes bilirubin and it makes bile and it has all these things in it that will help you to detoxify. You just have to allow it to communicate within itself to know what to do with these chemicals and toxins and how to deal with them and limit the exposure, right? If somebody's living in a moldy environment, moving would be a good, or cleaning up the mold would be a good idea. If somebody works in a, in a plant where they have lots of smoke, because it's I don't know, they manufacture something and use smoke, not being in that environment or limiting it would be a really good idea. That's more effective than just popping pills and treating symptoms. But yeah, I think palmitate, retinol palmitate, or different types of vitamin E and vitamin C are great.
Okay. I'm going to ask this one last question, and then we're going to move on to the next topic, and we'll come back to these and answer them after the fact.
Sounds good.
In the comment section. So, chin, acne, and rosacea, is there a link? This woman is 40 and tends to have acne.
I got acne and rosacea. What's the first word?
Chin acne. So she has a lot of acne on her chin and rosacea. Is there a link?
Well, small intestine's here, and this is the colon. That's a relationship. So the small intestine comes first, and the tube, the digestive tube, right? It's okay, and then at the end of the tube is the anus. So yeah, I guess there's a relationship for sure. Yeah. So acne is like something that some people, it's so common for people to have acne. We went over this before we did this video, that people think of acne as being normal, like it's the normal thing for them to have, but acne is not normal. Gas, constipation, diarrhea, hot flashes, night sweats, none of these things are normal. These are abnormal things. These are symptoms. So they may be the common thing to have these kinds of symptoms. It may be that myself or you or most of our friends have these symptoms, but does that mean that if somebody feels good and they never have acne a day in their life, they never have a hot flash, night sweat, constipation, gas, diarrhea, does that make them abnormal? Do they have some kind of problem? No, of course not.
And this is what we were talking about. I think we were talking about, let's just jump into it, because the next topic is hormones, and this came up when we were prepping. This came up because it was incredible to me, after getting some treatment and feeling better, how many symptoms I took for granted as normal, which were like PMS symptoms, irritability, moodiness, bloating, cramping, all of these things that just went away, and like not being tired and not having energy, and all of those things basically went away, and I see it now, and it's so common, and this is exactly what you're just talking about, that it doesn't have to be that way. It's totally optional.
You don't have to go through this kind of craziness anymore, right? If you're dealing with, like myself and Elena, we used to deal with these kind of things, and we're really lucky not to have to deal with them now. I don't have constipation now. I'm assuming you're doing okay, and we've been treating you for a while for different things, but I had that. And if you have rosacea, or if you're having acne in different places, you don't have to have that, but you do want to find somebody who can help you figure out what's causing the rosacea. That's what we do in our office. Me just saying, it's nice. Sometimes I'll run into people, who are not my patients, and I say, wow, you have some trouble with your colon. You might want to think like, yeah, how would you know? Oh, never mind, it's okay. Maybe your colon's really doing well. I could be wrong. But it's always colon, right? So rosacea is autoimmune disease. Some people have the rosacea so bad that they end up with something called lupus, right? Systemic lupus erythematosus, and that's what that is. That's autoimmune disease. There's all kinds of things involved with autoimmune disease. Autoimmune disease, it's a very fancy, kind of snazzy way, trendy way of saying a problem with the digestive health, a serious digestive condition. So it's easier to think about what it really is, a serious digestive condition, than saying autoimmune disease, which is sort of confusing. It's like, oh, really? So tell me more about your autoimmune condition. Well, yes, I've had it for quite a few years now, and we don't quite know what's caused it. Why not just talk straightforward with people and just say, you have a digestive condition, we don't know how to treat it, so we're just going to give you this drug or do this irradiation thing, or we're just going to talk about SIBO. You know, I mean, it's like, it's small intestine bacterial. You know, it's like, seriously? Really?
Yeah.
That just means, like, they're not really going to help you. Or they're going to try, but sorry, I can hold back.
No, I think that's good. I think it's good for people to hear that.
Okay.
So, what does it mean if women's hormones are off, right? Because I feel like, well, from what you've said, having hormonal imbalance is linked to what other people call autoimmune disease, right? Because if your digestion is off, oftentimes your hormones are going to be off too. But what does that look like? Since we normalize PMS and we normalize all of these symptoms of imbalanced hormones, can you maybe explain some of the symptoms of PCOS, for example, which is really common?
Okay. Like what's causing it, you mean?
No, just like what are the common symptoms?
Right,
So
when people have PCOS, they just have a huge, they should already know that. Usually because they have it and they're watching, they're like, I have PCOS, you know. Like somebody told them they have PCOS already usually. But they have a lot of pain probably where the ovaries are. Sometimes the pain is so bad, it's like they can't go out in public for a short period of time, maybe around their cycle, or it could be another time of the month. So it's cysts on the ovaries. That's due to either toxicity or blood sugar imbalances. I can give you about a 75% promise that if you have PCOS, and feel free to strongly disagree with me, but if you have PCOS, you have a sweet carb or sugar addiction, meaning rice, pasta, potatoes, sugar, cakes, pies, cookies, soda pop, brownies, tortillas.
Anything that's going to raise your blood sugar.
Anything that's going to raise, yeah. Or it could be like a huge amount of coffee, but none of the other things. Or I don't eat sugar, I just like bread. Really?
Yeah.
That's what bread is. It's broken down into sugar. I don't eat any sugar at all. I eat brown rice. Okay, then. Well, brown rice is sugar.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but that's, there may be a small group of people who...
And so is that true also,
the hormones get off then from that.
Does it also throw, like, for example, a lot of women have estrogen dominance,
right,
or are not making enough progesterone? Is that also caused by having too much sugar or carbs?
Yeah, so estrogen dominance is another one of those things. We just went over autoimmune disease, but we could say estrogen dominance. And estrogen dominance sounds like, wow, well, what is really happening? You're hooked on sugar, my dear. It's not. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you're taking in a lot of sugar. Men tend to have too much fat in general, and women tend to have too much sugar in general. It's not specific. Everybody's a little different. But
you're talking about in what they eat?
And what they eat, yeah. So women, who have estrogen dominance, they'll tend to have larger breasts. If it's more, progesterone dominance, which is a whole different set of symptoms, then they tend to have, different people have different body types also. A man named Dr. Abravanel, the medical doctor, wrote Eat Right for Your Body Type, and he wrote a whole book about this. Mm-hmm. He identified 5 different body types, like adrenal glands, thyroid, pituitary, ovaries, and I guess there was one other one. I can't remember what it is right now. But yeah, so he showed what each body type would look like. And so these are the people that we see every day when we're walking around. People are a little bit overweight. Like the weight up here, that's adrenal dysfunction. That's too much cortisol. And the weight in the thighs, that would be ovaries aren't working right. Mm-hmm. And everybody, the cute, really attractive lady who's kind of pudgy everywhere, that's pituitary. Somebody says, oh, I have all these troubles. Is it okay to talk about this? Is this what you're asking? Yeah, I have troubles all around the right side of my body or the left side of my body. And I don't know why. It's just always on that side. It happened after this accident. But I didn't have, you didn't have an accident only on one side, that's pituitary. The pituitary is in the brain, so it's...
And that's related
kind of
to the hormones.
And the pituitary is the master conductor of the orchestra of hormones, right? It's telling each player, each gland, like the thyroid, the pituitary, the thyroid, the adrenal glands, the ovaries, or the testicles, and the pancreas, what to do, how to play the music, right?
Yeah.
The hypothalamus in the brain makes the music. The pituitary in the brain conducts the orchestra. The pineal gland is also in the brain, and it keeps the time, like the metronome.
So how does having your hormones off give you acne?
Okay. That's what we were going to talk about just a minute or two ago. But okay, so the hormones being off can give you acne, right? Because for a woman, let's say we're talking about a woman, they have the cycle every month, and what the cycle means is now the liver has to not just detoxify all the poisons and toxins, but hormones are poisonous and toxic too. And if you don't need it, if you have too much of it, or you finish using it, the metabolites need to be excreted, both in the cycle, right, the menstrual cycle, and also in the urine, and in all the same ways, in the fecal material. So if there's too big of a burden of toxins, it leads to hormonal imbalances. People say, I need more vitamin D. You need more vitamin D, why? Because we did this lab, and the lab showed low on vitamin D. Okay, the lab showed that you're low on vitamin D, which is really a hormone and not a vitamin, and it's metabolized in the liver and the kidneys. So if you're low on vitamin D, it means you have a toxic liver and kidneys. It doesn't mean you need more vitamin D. You should probably get sun.
So hormonal imbalance leads to problems detoxifying.
Yeah, if you have hormonal imbalances, like let's say you have an imbalance if you're low on certain nutrients, having certain infections, all these things lead to hormonal imbalances. Like not being able to have enough vitamin E metabolized is what leads to problems with estrogen metabolism. To make testosterone or estrogen, you need vitamin E, and especially for testosterone, you need also vitamin C and vitamin A, right? So,
but let me just make sure I understand, because you're
it's a little bit
so
complex,
so many different things that that I want to make sure our listeners are with us. If the reason if we have hormonal imbalance, we get acne, is because it comes down to detoxification, right?
Most of the time, that's what it is,
it's
right?
An extra burden, an extra hormonal burden that turns in that the body needs to get rid of, the same way we get rid of toxins.
Right, exactly. So just think of like a lot of these glands and organs, especially the liver. The liver's like a hormone machine, you know? It's processing all these poisons and toxins, and it's helping to detoxify vitamin D, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all these things. But if it can't do it, if the burden is too great, that's going to be an imbalance in the metabolism of these hormones, or over too much stress, right? The adrenal glands are a major hormone gland. You know, they make all the same ones that they make the estrogen, testosterone, and DHEA and whatnot. So the hormonal imbalance, not being able to metabolize those things properly can lead to acne, especially when you're talking about, estrogen, or
because we're not able to remove them.
Right, you're not able to detoxify it properly.
Okay.
It's a fat problem.
So
Acne is a fat problem. So it has to do with mainly the gallbladder and the liver. It's a fatty problem. I mean,
what do you mean by fatty?
Well, the skin is the oils coming out are fat. Those are like fat. It's fat dependent upon healthy fat metabolism. So if the gallbladder or liver are not healthy, you'll have problems with metabolizing fat. Those are the main two that metabolize fat, not the only ones, but the main ones.
So it sounds like detoxification and hormonal imbalance really aren't that different. I mean, they are because they're different. They serve different functions, but with regard to acne, hormonal imbalance really just adds to the detoxification.
Right. Well, these are complex subjects that we're trying to make simple, so I don't want to make things black and white, but let's just say there's a big difference between being diabetic and having some acne. Having a major problem with the pancreas and not being able to make insulin properly, and having acne are two different things. But diabetics don't detoxify properly, and there was this guy, Cousins, right, Gabriel Cousins. He decided, hey, let's just put all these diabetics on a vegan diet. It was like a vegan, like the special diet where they could only eat fruits and vegetables that were fresh and not cooked. And he did this for like a month or a month and a half, and none of them have diabetes anymore after just a month or a month and a half. So that tells you a diabetic, yes, absolutely, they're having trouble with their hormones because they're toxic. And then in this particular study, it was 100% of the time. I'm not saying it's like that for every diabetic, and I don't agree with.
That movie.
Oh, you saw that?
It was a movie, right?
Yeah, it was a little movie. Yeah, it was really popular a while ago. So I don't agree with everything that Gabriel Cousins promotes, or his father, or whatever, or his son. But it was interesting, you know, that's a real thing.
Okay, last question, and then we're getting into the questions. We spoke about vitamin E and taking supplements. I know that a lot of people do research and they
Like my mother.
Well, I'm including myself in this. Before I came to see you,
Okay.
I was reading about different supplements and how can I take this and oh, this can help with this, and I was really taking a lot of supplements. What supplements do you recommend for people who have hormonal imbalance, if any? Or in acne, with regard to acne.
Acne is different. Okay. So yeah, if people have acne, they tend to do really well with getting their colon healthier. So they could take like a probiotic maybe if they're not going to have somebody who can diagnose what's causing the acne and get rid of the cause, which makes more sense to me. They can just try to treat the symptoms if they want.
Well,
Not to take an antibiotic, but to take a probiotic, right? To get a healthy intestinal tract. Or maybe just do something that's going to help with toxins.
In prepping for this, you brought up vitamin E. And I think it's really interesting because vitamin E plays a big role with hormones and with acne. But you told me that...
No, I know where you're going. Yeah, so a lot of people will go and buy vitamin E and then they start taking like 1 or 2 pills of vitamin E per day. But if you take a wet vitamin E, all of the research, not just some, all of the research shows that vitamin E blocks fat metabolism. And the healthy fats are really crucial to normal human health, right? To decrease pain, to help with everything, right? To help with each cell, the membrane is composed of fat. It's mainly composed of cholesterol. So cholesterol is not bad or good, it's just cholesterol. But anyway, so if you take a high-dose vitamin E, it's 400 IU, just one of those pills a day or one of those pills every day or two will interfere with fat metabolism, and now you have a problem with the eicosanoids, which is a fancy word for fats, and now you're having all kinds of problems. You're really messing up the hormonal balance.
So does that mean that vitamin
You can't even make the hormones in it. You can't metabolize estrogen properly. That's why when people have like...
so should people avoid vitamin E?
No, just the fatty one maybe. Just the wet vitamin E. They should. They should avoid wet vitamin E. What do we recommend? We recommend getting an exam and having somebody diagnose what's wrong and not getting into trouble.
But with regard to vitamin E, what's the difference between...
Cataplex E from Standard Process is what I recommend.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
A safer one than these other ones. Because it's a whole food vitamin E. There's no high dosage of vitamin E in that particular product. There's like 4 IU instead of 400. It's kind of like eating a food, right? Like a wheat germ would have lots of vitamin E. Like a whole food. Eating food. I recommend people eat food, not vitamins, to try to get healthy.
Wonderful. Can you guys hand me some of the questions?
Yeah, so canola oil would mess up vitamin E metabolism because it's just blocking the fat. It's an unhealthy fat. So that's an example of a problem with that. And that'll mess up the hormones.
Okay. We have a question here from someone who has celiac. And she says...
All right.
Autoimmune disease confusion. I have celiac, a type of autoimmune. Is it not really a disease then? Is it just a digestive issue?
There's another one of these definition things. So what does disease mean? You know, that it depends on how you define disease. I mean, we'd have to, you can get out a dictionary and look at it. I think of disease as just being the body's in a state where the physiology is not normal. In other words, you're not having normal human health. People who take any prescription medicine have some type of a disease. So my response to her would be, do you take any type of prescription medicine at all? And if her answer is yes, then she has what the medical community has agreed upon as being this thing we call disease. So it just depends on how you define disease. Yeah. But so for celiac, one more time the question? Let's just repeat it.
Is it not really a disease, just a digestive issue?
If you get rid of the digestive problem, you don't have celiac disease anymore. That's the whole point. That's what I'm saying. These people.
But that doesn't mean that she should go eat gluten, right?
No, it does not mean that you should have any wheat or wheat products or gluten. But wheat germs, sometimes, just don't even play that game. Don't go and get me into trouble. Don't start eating wheat germ and saying, oh, I'm getting sick, and that doctor said that wheat germ was okay. I have a whole article I did on wheat germ and the benefits of wheat germ. But if you have celiac disease, you have to be careful, and you have to have a healthcare provider who's sort of monitoring a lot of your lifestyle choices, which is fine. I mean, if they say you can have wheat germ, then go ahead and have wheat germ, but make sure you're getting it okayed by your doctor, whoever you're seeing to support you with your health. Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, I've been taking birth control for years and don't know a better option. Is this a main cause of acne? Are there other safer birth control options? I also get upset stomach. Does this mean I have hormonal imbalance?
Well, we'd have to do an exam for you to know if you have, most people have hormonal imbalances. It's just a part of being human. So we don't know enough just from that question. But yeah, with birth control, in Brazil, they don't even use birth control to the best of my knowledge. And there's now applications you can get from your phone, right? And you can kind of see when you're fertile and when you're not. And you can you can get these things called cycle beads. I guess you just go to cyclebeads.com, or you can look it up in Google, and you can get beads, and it's found to be more effective, just a tiny bit more effective than birth control, and it's completely safe. You can get this little fertility, know about this,
yeah,
right?
and the idea behind that, I can speak to this,
yeah.
is you find out when you're fertile, and you
a
pad
female
it.
Talking about this is nice.
You pad it safely, so about 7 days before you're going to become fertile, if you want to be really safe, and then it's when you ovulate. And then after you ovulate, you don't have to use protection until the next cycle comes around, and it's a few days before you ovulate again.
Right.
But
the little test too. You have to have a normal cycle.
It won't work.
Right. You can't do it the wrong way.
Yeah, you have to be accurate with that.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, it's fine. And then speaking about birth control, my experience with birth control has been really bad, and I know a lot of women that have had really bad experiences with birth control.
Birth control was developed by men a long time ago. They don't have a man control other than condoms, right? They don't have like a pill that men take to be impotent or to have, not virile or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to think about the history of this stuff.
That's a very refreshing perspective. I like that a lot. But that it does upset. I've heard that it upsets the gut. The gut flora and the balance of bacteria that's in there. And we're getting too far off topic.
No, we're not off topic. Birth control is a business. So if you want to make money, invest in a birth control company and buy stock in their company. Yeah. Don't do it if you want to be healthy. You're not going to be using birth control. Don't even go in that direction. You're going to mess up your hormones. You're going to cause B vitamin deficiencies. You're going to have troubles with your energy. You could get pregnant anyway. I mean, you probably won't, but you could. You can run into becoming infertile. You'll never be able to have a normal, healthy child unless you get a surrogate. I mean, this is like bad news. Seriously, you can end up with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. I mean, hair loss. I don't even know. I couldn't even begin. I mean, there's just so many problems from.
Okay, let's not go too much into that.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a very
hormonal imbalances.
Strong, clear message.
I'm serious. I mean, no offense. If you're taking birth control, don't worry about it. Just slowly get to find out about options. There's tons of naturopaths that can help.
Okay, here's a question that I think you already answered, but I think it's worth repeating. She says, how do I know for sure whether or not I have hormonal imbalance? Which hormones are off and how to fix it?
Do a lab.
Okay.
A saliva lab from Diagnostics. If you're cycling, do a cycling female hormone lab, and if you're not, then do one of the other ones.
Is this something that people can order online?
You can go to a doctor who's licensed, and they can order it for you. You can't do it online, no. You have to get a licensed health care provider.
I've done this one, and it was actually really interesting. It told me a lot of information, so I do recommend it from personal experience. Okay, those are the questions that we're going to answer right now, and we're going to get to the last part of this, because it's taking a little bit longer, but it's really good information, so I don't want to cut it short. And then later...
This is great!
And then later we can go
Don't
on
worry if you're taking birth control pills. You just got to get knowledge and awareness. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. It's just that this is a big thing.
Yeah.
If I were a woman, I would want to know about this. I wouldn't want nobody to tell me. I'd want to know what's going on.
Yeah. So the last part is infections. How does having infections cause acne or affect acne?
I'm glad you asked. So let's say somebody has a fungal infection as an example. So
what are some common fungal infections?
Well, just Candida, mold yeast fungus Candida, Candida albicans.
So like if someone has a yeast infection. That's
right,
what you're
yeast,
talking about.
yeah.
Okay.
So they see a little toenail fungus or something. So if you have one of these fungal infections, the fungal infections produce up to 70 different toxins that are released into your blood. So can you imagine 70 different poisons / toxins are being released in your blood? How are you going to detoxify all that stuff? And so you start to have trouble detoxifying, and then you end up with
so
things
it goes
like
back to the
acne.
same thing.
Right. And anytime you have one of these fungal infections, it's not like it's just a fungal infection. That's the only trouble you have in your body. You still have probably a viral infection and possibly other troubles with your digestion. I mean, I can't tell you how many hundreds or even thousands of patients I've treated who have fungal infection, parasites, viruses, bacteria. They're all in the gut, and then they have a little, fungal infection in their toe, and they think, oh yeah, I'm just taking care of that. That's when I go to my, nail salon. It's probably the lady had a bad nail file that was working on me. No, it wasn't her fault. That's something else. There's something maybe in your diet. Yeah. You have some trouble with your digestion. So that's how it leads to the acne. It's the same thing we've gone over.
Oh, okay.
Your body's overwhelmed.
There's not too much more to talk about in infections, though.
Just think of like the external skin as being a continuation of the internal digestive tract. That's an interesting way of looking at it. A lot of naturopaths give that analogy.
So after going over all of this information, I thought that was going to take longer, but that's fine. We'll just do more questions now. We'll go back and answer some more questions. But before we do that, what would you say is the biggest bang for your buck lifestyle change that our listeners can make if they have acne? What do you recommend them do?
The thing we talked about before, drinking more of a good quality spring water. Oh, but I have a Brita filter, so I would drink a good quality spring water. Oh, I use Kangen, so I would just drink a good quality spring water. Oh, I have this special $250,000 water filtration system, and it takes everything out. That sounds excellent. I would recommend a good quality spring water for you. One that has good electron spin, right? So we don't want to damage the electron spin around the hydrogens or around the oxygens and the bonds of the normal water that's made by God. But anyway, the other thing would find a good protein source. I think Pharmaca might sell Mediclear Plus, or you can order it from them from Thorne Research. And Mediclear Plus is okay for a lot of people if you want a good, protein shake. Mediclear Plus is a protein shake supplement? With vitamins. It's a medical food, with vitamins and minerals. If you're not eating enough protein, maybe you're a vegan or a vegetarian or something like that. That's a protein source. Maybe a good pea protein without a lot of sugar. Just make sure there's no stevia or sugar or sweetener. If you don't like the way it tastes, it's probably good for you. Okay. And if you like the way it tastes, if you like the way it tastes and it tastes sweet, then you might want to be careful.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have drink spring water, right?
Yeah.
Spring water. More protein. What else? We talked about exercising.
Be careful of your computer. Watch being in your phone too much, there's so many things that people do. Get all natural cleaning products that are maybe vinegar or a citrus-based cleaning product. Limit your exposure to toxins. Yeah.
And this is obvious for me.
Don't use. Elena has a great brand. I know we weren't going to do this, but Elena's skincare is non-toxic. The Luminance skincare line is non-toxic. So why would you want to put on, all these weird, sunscreens on your body that cause cancer and testicles to dissolve and ovaries to dissolve, literally, right? That's what the stuff does.
Cause testicles to dissolve. That's horrifying.
Well, I'm sorry, but they do. Parabens do that. So instead of doing that, just get something that's non-toxic. And there's other ones that are on the market, and be careful. Get educated about this.
And then you just brought up another thing that I know you've suggested to me, which is vitamin D. Do you recommend anyone? Do you think that people with acne need more vitamin D in general? Is that a safe
If they live in the Pacific Northwest, then maybe they could take a little vitamin D.
Not as a supplement, though, right? Just get direct.
No, in the Pacific Northwest, going to a tanning salon would be better, even if you live in the Pacific Northwest, because there's not a lot of sun up in Oregon and Washington. So going to a tanning salon every now and then. Oh my God, the doctor just said to go to a tanning salon. Well, maybe. You're asking.
Yeah.
If you're not getting enough sun and you need sun for normal human health, and vitamin D is crucial to. Low levels of vitamin D are associated with autoimmune disease, just because the person with the autoimmune disease has all these poisons and toxins and poor digestion. They probably have the infections. So we just deal with all of that in our office. We don't beat around. We don't waste time or anything like that. But But yeah, there's not, like, taking a vitamin D supplement doesn't make sense
I meant
unless
exposure
you're...
to the sun.
Oh yeah, get into the sun. Yeah, for sure.
20 minutes a day is what you'd recommend, or?
It depends on your lifestyle and how much time you have. But yeah, getting about 20 or 30 minutes 2 or 3 times a week would be great. You know, that would be awesome. That would be wonderful. It'll help with your mood. It'll help with your sleep. It'll help with your energy. It'll help with your hormones. It'll help with your bowel movements. It'll help with your digestion. I mean, it just really, really helps.
Do you think that makes it into the top 5 lifestyle changes people who have acne should make?
That's probably among the top 5, yeah, 4, 5, or 6.
Clean water, protein, sun exposure,
sunlight.
Are there any others?
Avoiding toxic,
avoiding
the toxic
limiting
skin
your
cares
toxic
and
exposure.
hair cares. Yeah, Louisa Williams wrote a book about that. I don't have it here. It's a book like that thick. It's called Radical Medicine. That thick, and she's talking about just avoiding toxic products mostly. She talks about other things, but yeah, that's huge.
Can I see the questions?
I mean, we've been treating you for a while, so
Yeah.
if you can think of something else, that would be good.
No.
That's fine.
Eating enough. Eating often enough and
Eating
balancing
often
my
enough.
blood sugar. Not. I guess that's the other thing, right? That we
Eating
talked
often
about.
enough. Drinking water often enough. It's not just drinking like 1.5 gallons when you wake up in the morning. It's drinking the water throughout the day and drinking a good source of water and eating a good source of protein and eating it often enough.
Oh, this person said, well, before I get into this, but yes, and not letting my blood sugar spike, so not eating too many sugars or sugar at all.
And fats are good for that too, like avocados and I don't know what else, but...
So that would be the 5 things. I
Okay,
think that's
5
really
things.
helpful. What is the recommended detox diet and follow-up lifestyle food changes?
What is the recommended detox diet and follow-up?
Lifestyle and food changes. That's what we just talked about, really.
Yeah.
Those 5 recommended things: spring water,
Good source of protein.
Not having too many carbs or sugars,
Exercise.
the sunlight, exercise, and limiting exposure to toxins.
Some people never are able to sleep well at night, and then and it's been happening for like 10 years, and they don't go into the sun, and then they wear sunscreen everywhere. Well, I'm just putting on my sunscreen, and I don't want to, you know, and some of them, you know, it's like, why not just try to experience the sun and get the benefit from the sun? It doesn't mean to get burnt. After, you know, a half hour or so, people can start to burn, and that means that nothing bad is happening. You just want to limit your exposure at that point. Maybe after the first half hour or 37 minutes, you could start to put on sunscreen then. You know, one that's non-toxic, that's safe, that doesn't have all kinds of, you know, endocrine disruptors. Titanium dioxide is an endocrine disruptor, so that wouldn't be good. It's probably better to have that ingredient out of your sunscreen.
This person, Adrian, asked, can you speak to using colloidal silver for infections? Or colloidal silver?
Should I?
Well, do you think it's a...
I guess
would you
I should.
recommend it, or would you not?
So I think you should be careful, right? So colloidal silver is amazing. Why is it amazing? Because it's one of those things that was grandfathered in. So that's one of the only nutritional things that you can make claims about, to say, hey, colloidal silver really does get rid of all these different bacterial infections and viral infections and parasites, and you can use it and you can count on that to do that. And so, hey, why not use colloidal silver? Because it's a heavy metal? Because it's toxic? Because it causes heart disease and cancer? Because it's caused the fall of Rome? Their lips turned blue because they drank out of silver flasks and used silverware? We no longer use silverware because it's toxic. So our silverware is now made of stainless steel, right? We're not using silver because silver is a toxic poison. So yeah, don't use colloidal silver. It's effective and it works, and it doesn't just kill the bacteria and all that other stuff. It might kill you, right? So no, I've been using colloidal silver for years. That's okay. Just, you can continue to use it. You don't have to. Just take this for what it's worth. We've been doing this for a while.
So here's another question. Could copper toxicity be causing acne?
It could. Anything can cause acne. I hope you don't. I don't know how else to answer that one, but it's possible.
So the answer is that they'd need to see someone who could give them more specifics.
I wouldn't suggest people use a copper IUD, but they can if they want to. Maybe it's good for them. I don't know.
Oh, I see.
Because why would she be asking? Or he?
What causes body acne? So it's the same three things that we talked about, right?
Yeah, some people have really weakened immune systems, and it's usually from some habit, something that happened to them. You know, maybe they live in an area like in Chernobyl in Russia, you know, in that northern part of Russia, northwest of Russia. Maybe they were using a toxic skincare product for many, many years every day, you know, a body lotion or something. Or maybe they had a sugar addiction. They would just, I used to remember I would eat like my breakfast cereal, and some people I knew would pour teaspoons of sugar in their cereal, and they'd have the whole thing and then drink the milk with it. So what do we got? So that's the kind of thing that could ruin a person's digestion, and then they end up with acne all over their body.
Yeah.
Fatty acid metabolism imbalance can cause that.
So this person is asking about, we talked about face mapping a little bit, like if you're breaking out here,
oh, right.
and that has to do with a certain organ. And they're saying, what is related to the forehead?
Well, this is gallbladder. I'm sorry, bladder and gallbladder here. So
I don't know what part of the bladder.
Mainly gallbladder type stuff.
It's all over the forehead? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But those are pretty common. You can find those.
Depends on the person.
Yeah. You can find those images on Google too.
Yeah, you could just, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's an easy way to do it.
Let's see. I think we're pretty much done. We can address the rest of these questions in the comments afterwards.
Okay.
Right? You'll be willing to go online and address some of these questions.
We're excited about it.
Awesome. Okay. So we have some winners. We have Paige. Please email me. Katie and Adrian. So if you guys can email me, we have some winners. And then Dr. Ilya, how many winners did you want to choose today?
I think 3 winners sounds good. Okay.
So then Paula.
Maybe we should do a couple extra. 5 winners.
Graciela and Shauna. Sorry, we did 3. We can choose some more at the end of next week too.
Okay.
If you can email Dr. Ilya, can you say your email address?
Yeah, it's doc@triadofhealth.net. So it's triadofhealth.net.
And my email address is Elena, ELENA, @luminanceskincare.com. All right, you guys. Thanks for joining us live. Let us know in the comments if there's any more questions that we didn't get to, and I hope you enjoyed.
Thanks a lot.